Hey guys, welcome to Together We Can Cook. Tonight I'm going to be making meatballs. I had made a pot of tomato sauce earlier and I reserved a bunch of it. We actually gobbled up a lot of it with our spaghetti, but I did save some and I'm going to make some meatballs right now that I'm going to put away in the fridge because tomorrow we might have a busy day and I want to have dinner ready for when we need it. So we are going to start out by dicing up some onions. I actually have some onions here that are half cut up. They were from something else a couple days ago, and I didn't want to waste all the leftovers because there's really nothing wrong with it. So I always say use what you have on hand. So we're going to dice them up and we are going to add them to the ground beef. This is about 1.5 pounds of ground beef. And then we're going to start putting in all the rest of our ingredients and making meatballs. And you can either fry them or bake them. I think tonight I'm going to bake them because it just might be a little bit easier, but either way is awesome. So I'm just going to switch my camera over here so that you guys can get a better peek at the onion chopping. All right, so I'm just going to run my knife through these onions. They're already cut up, but they were cut up into rings because we were using them on sandwiches. So I'm just going to run my knife through, try to get them in a dice. It's much harder to do it this way than if we would have started out with a whole onion because they're going all over the place. But I didn't want to waste them. I've been sneaking them into other recipes today, trying to get rid of some of them. So I'm just going to try to get them small because if they are in gigantic pieces, most of them will probably fall right out of the meatballs and not stay in them, which is fine if that happens. It usually does, but I notice that if they're in smaller pieces, you don't lose so many of them. So I'm just going to cut these up, add them into the bowl with the ground beef, and then we're going to move on to our other ingredients. Okay, onions are all cut up. I'm going to scoot them on into the bowl and we're going to move on. So the first thing I'm going to add is some ground black pepper, and we're going to add some dried parsley. This is like a heaping 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese, and we also have a 1/4 cup of 2% milk, and we have a 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs, and we are going to put a few shakes of garlic powder. And the last thing we're going to put in, I'm going to switch everything around here, is 1 egg. I'm going to crack it in the bowl, make sure it's okay, and it is. And we're going to put that in the bowl, and we're going to start mixing. So you can pick what size you want your meatballs to be. I usually try to make them the same size so that they cook evenly at the temperature that we're going to have the oven set on. If you had some that were bigger or smaller, that's okay, but you might have to pull some of them out sooner than other ones. And then tomorrow, I'm going to simmer them in tomato sauce. So tonight, I'm just looking to bake them in the oven and get them cooked through. And then tomorrow, they'll continue to cook and they'll suck up all that goodness in the tomato sauce, and we will have them over spaghetti tomorrow night. So I'm just going to continue to mix everything through, and then we're going to form the meatballs, and we're going to put them on a stainless steel cookie sheet that has one of those silicone mats on it so that they don't stick in the oven. Okay, so I just preheated the oven. I'm going to cook them on 350 degrees. There's no need to really cook them any higher and rush them. I'm not really in a giant rush tonight. If you were in a great big rush, you could cook them at 375 for a little bit, and then you could even crank up the oven to 400 if you were really in a bind. You could always make these ahead of time as well and put them in the crock pot with your tomato sauce. I usually add a little bit of water because I feel like the tomato sauce with water added in the crock pot, it will allow you room for some of the sauce to evaporate and it won't get everything all too thick and dried up. And the meatballs actually become more tender because they're soaking up the sauce, but because it's a little more watered down, I feel like the meatballs just do better that way. They're not going to get all dry. The sauce isn't going to get too thick. I actually have tried to heat them up in a pressure cooker before, and the pressure cooker kept turning off, and I couldn't figure out why it kept turning off. So after reading the booklet that came with it, it turns out that you need a certain amount of liquid in a pressure cooker, and if there isn't the right amount of liquid, I guess the safety is for it to turn itself off. So I'm not sure you guys if you're going to try to cook them really quick, like when you reheat them. I wouldn't cook them in a pressure cooker as their initial cooking. You could try to put them maybe in a little bit of a watered down tomato sauce, but I'm sure in the pressure cooker you need a certain amount of liquid in there. So I learned that the hard way. I couldn't not figure out why it kept turning off. I thought maybe it was broken, but nope, it was the amount of liquid in there. But pressure cooker isn't something that I take out too often. I usually use that if I'm really in a bind and I need something cooked extremely fast. Like I've put frozen chicken wings in there, and I make sure this time that there's a lot of liquid inside, water and seasonings. It is kind of cool though because it cooks it like in a half hour, and the chicken wings are like falling off the bone like they were cooking all day. So it's kind of cool. But we'll have to play around with that another day, I guess. Today, let's focus on our meatballs. So I'm just trying to make them all about the same size. And we're just going to add them to the pan. Now this was 1.5 pounds of ground beef. I usually get the one that is, I want to say it's called 90-10, meaning like it's a little more lean. The one that's 80-20 has more fat in it, which sometimes I guess you want that because you're looking to have some moisture. But I like the one that's, I'm pretty sure it's 90-10 or 95 and 5%. They didn't have it today in the supermarket. So I ended up with this one. I think it was 85 and 15%, I guess, would be the fat content, I believe. But that's okay. Sometimes I pick what's fresher also over what I normally would get. Like when I bought my chicken cutlets today when I went food shopping, they had ones I don't mind really. Like if you buy like a whole chicken on the bone with the skin, I don't mind removing the skin and cutting the cutlets off the bone and doing it myself. And if it's cheaper, like you're going to get more chicken that way, I don't mind at all. But the date was horrible on it. The date was like maybe a day from now. So I went with ones that were ever so slightly more expensive because they were already prepared by the butcher and cut. But I really, if I have to pick one or the other, the price of the chicken, and I have to compare the freshness, I always go with like food safety and freshness over the price. You know, just, I guess it's just me, just to be safe. I usually go that route. So I'm just going to keep going here. I'm trying to squeeze as much as I can on here. I'm kind of like running out of room. I'm probably going to have to get another pan. You can squeeze as much as you want of meatballs on a pan. It's not like crescent rolls or anything that it's going to expand. If anything, they're going to get smaller. They are what they are. So I'm just going to wash my hands and grab another pan. I'll be right back. Okay, this is the last meatball. This is driving me crazy. This is my OCD. Everything is perfectly lined up on the pan, and there's one left. I'm going to put it there, but I'm not happy. Let's go over to the oven and get these meatballs in. So from the pound and a half of ground beef and our ingredients, we got these 2 pans of meatballs. I'm going to put them both on the top to start out, but I'm going to switch them after a little bit because whatever is by the sides of the oven is going to cook faster than the ones over here because the walls of the oven are really hot. So I'm going to set a timer for maybe 15 minutes. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to switch the pans. I might actually move the rack up. I just cleaned the oven. The bottom rack looks like it's like 1 slot too low. So I'm just going to put mitts on and move that up. And I'll bring you guys with me when I switch the pans. So let's set a timer. I'm going to put 15 minutes and then we'll switch the pans and check everything. All right, I'm going to go do dishes while they cook. Okay, the timer just went off. I'm going to move the rack up 1 notch like I said I was going to do before. Okay, I'm going to take from what was on the top, flip it around, and put it down. Same thing from the top to the bottom, but I'm going to rotate it like this so that the other meatballs are now on the outside of the oven because we want everything to cook evenly. I'm going to put the timer back on for another 15 minutes and we'll come back and check on them then. All right, the timer just went off. They have been baking for a total of 40 minutes. They look like they're done. Okay, I cut one open. It is totally cooked through. I am going to leave them cool for a couple minutes, and then I am going to store them in a Tupperware with tomato sauce that I made earlier. And tomorrow we could just microwave them when we are ready for them. I just want to give you guys a peek before I mix all the sauce around. They came out really good. I just tried one. Looking forward to having them tomorrow with the leftover spaghetti from tonight. Next up on my Italian food agenda is to make eggplant parmesan, but it's probably, what time is it now? It's 11:30 at night, so that's probably going to be tomorrow. If you guys stayed this far in my video, I really appreciate it, and happy cooking!